I will work hard on their behalf in a new Liberal government led by Premier Robert Giz. Farmers and fishers are the backbone of this province, and we have to ensure that the programs are in place to make sure sustainability is there for them. The products, we have to have the proper market for the products. We have the best seafood in the world, we have some of the best grown vegetables in the world, and it's marketed worldwide. We've got to continue to working on the markets to make sure it gets to the different countries that are looking for it.
I think the farmers and fishermen need to dictate some of the industry back to government and help them move forward. But we'd probably help them, find new markets and some new innovative ideas and ways to sell their product.
Island farmers and fishermen need water. They need clean water. If we ban pesticides right off the bat, just flat ban them, the water will be it's just so much better to have clean water. We have nitrates, pesticide runoff, sewage runoff for the fishermen. It's a multi-layered issue on the water for me. Water's my main concern. But other than that, buffer zones need to be increased. The fishermen need to get together and agree on something. They find it hard to agree, so we got to make them agree.
I think that what needs to happen is that island farmers and fishermen need to be asked what they need to improve the bottom line. I think there's far too much control by big companies and far too much control just globalization. And I also believe, as does the whole party, that Prince Edward Island needs more farmers, not fewer farmers. We need to have a return to the strength of the family farm, to the strength of a sustainable family farm. And as far as the fishermen and fishers are concerned, exactly the same thing. They need to get a sustainable income for what they're doing. And what that means is that we have to find a way to break the control of the big companies. I think a huge mistake in this part of the country, in this part of the province a few years ago, was when the whole processing was given over to an outside company from Newfoundland. It would have been much better to sell it to the fishing.
Well, it's not going to be easy. The thing is, one thing we got to do, we got to give them every break we can in terms of tax dollars. We'll make small business loans available, and we'll also go way outside of the box. We'll meet with those people. We'll have a summit, hopefully, with those people where we'll bring all the stakeholders together and come up with a plan. We haven't got all the answers. We have to deal with those people, and they got probably a lot of the answers. So we have to bring people together, bring them all together, and say, look, let's come up with a plan. Let's work together on this. It's never been done in this province. They just fly by the seat of their pants, the government. I say, bring all the stakeholders together, but make money available for small business people. Absolutely. Absolutely, of course they should operate in the hospital. We want to get rid of the health board. We really think it's a dysfunctional board that's really hasn't did anything. As a matter of fact, it's almost disgraceful because look at the healthcare situation in the province here. When we elect a government, we elect also a Department of Health, Minister of Health, who should take responsibility for those actions. You know, in keeping hospitals sound, in getting doctors, and coming up with a plan, working with professionals. But just an unelected board of a whole bunch of political hacks, we're going to get rid of that board. Plus, we're going to review all the other boards and commissions, who are basically dysfunctional.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, fully functioning. You know, what does that mean? I think that we do need an emergency department open 24/7 in Montague. Probably we need an emergency department open 24/7 in Surrey. Because I think another thing that really works, and I've seen it in British Columbia where my daughter lives, is the 811 nurse line, where a mother who wonders whether her child is okay, or a wife who wonders whether her husband is okay, or back and forth, can actually phone and get a real answer instead of getting a call, instead of getting the answer, well, if you think they need it, you better bring them into the outpatients or the emergency department. And that's not the answer you want when you say, how bad is a bad fever in my child?
We need to have emergency care for every hospital. Doctors need to be brought here, kept here. I think by going organic and branding PEI organic, more people will be interested in coming and staying here.
We need 24-hour emergency care at the Kings County Memorial Hospital, period. And I hear it on every doorstep.
If we have the doctors and the nurses who are willing to staff the rural hospitals, yes, it would be terrific to have 24-hour emergency care in the rural hospitals. We have to realize that it's not always the budget process that cuts these out. It's the staff who are not there to work them. And doctors don't want to be overworked, nurses don't want to be overworked. You don't want to be going to an emergency room at 3 o'clock in the morning and being looked after by a doctor who's been on the go for 48 hours. So as long, yes, if the people are there to work these emergency hospitals, yes, then they should be open.
We will cut where we have to maintain efficiency and fiscal responsibility. We'll reduce income tax, reduce payroll taxes, and implement a carbon tax, which will deter polluters from polluting, basically. Yes, and that's how we'll help reduce the debt and deficit.
Right. Which programs and services would you consider cutting?
It just depends at the time what's economically viable and doable at the time.
I think that the debt and deficit can be very well dealt with by raising income. You know, we still have people in Canada and in the province who are making a lot of money and not paying taxes on it. I can think of a couple of our, well, at least one of our major business families who have their headquarters offshore. Now, if their headquarters were in Canada, we would be able to raise more taxes. I think that the wealthy have been getting away with a far too much.
Do you know what? There's lots and lots of places where there's government waste that we could save money. You know, when you look at the moving of the paint shop from Milton to Tignish, $250,000 was spent on travel costs alone for those staff. I mean, there's countless ways that this government has wasted money. I think if we cut government waste, we won't need to cut any jobs.
I will not support cutting civil service at all. I think we have to deal with our deficit. We have to look at the spending and control spending from the government. We're looking at an increase in revenue coming in the next 2 years, and spending has already been said will be decreased in the next 2 years. And it will not be by cutting programs. It'll be by fiscal responsibility.
Where's the extra revenue coming from?
I believe it's 1.9. They're projecting a growth in the economy of 1.9%.
Well, we're going to deal with the debt and deficit. That's not, it's not going to be easy. They have backed us into a corner which is absolutely outrageous. We're there about $2 billion in debt now because of a lot of it because of irresponsible spending, irresponsible investments. And we would, no, we don't believe in a wholesale cut of our civil service. The civil service does a good job. There are very, very qualified people in many cases. There are a lot of people, there were political appointments that
We need to do more for seniors, and I mean, our platform are already showing how we're going to do more for seniors. We're looking at things like the fuel oil rebate. That's going to help Island seniors. We're looking at the volunteer tax credit for seniors. That's going to help them. The cut to the PST, that's going to help them. I mean, every little bit that we're doing along the way is going to help not only seniors, but Islanders that are struggling to pay their bills. There
are more manors being built now, which is great. I think that's a good step forward. We need more RCWs in play. They need to be trained correctly and put into place. The Green Party has in place tax shifting, which is going to put taxes onto people carbon tax, and we'll just take that money simply and put it into cutting the EI and CPP payments by 2/3, and that there will just be pocketed money for people. That will help a whole bunch for the aging population. They won't have to put so much in.
The aging population in rural communities, we have to look after our aging population. Our aging population, our seniors, are the people who built this province up, and we owe them the dignity to ensure that they are looked after in their senior years. I believe the government has done a great stride in replacing the Manor program. The Manor in Surrey has been replaced, the Manor up west has been replaced, the new Manor in Montague is next to be replaced, and there's going to be 75 more long-term beds implemented in the next 4 years under a new Liberal government. We are looking after our seniors in the long-term care, and that's what's needed. Will more beds or more facilities become available over the next 4 years? We'll wait and see what happens in the communities, but our seniors are very important to look after.
I think one of the things we really need is we need low-cost, rent-to-income geared housing right in the communities. A tremendous opportunity was lost when Dundas Consolidated School was closed. There should have been support to make that into rent geared to income, low-cost seniors rent, low-cost seniors housing. This is another thing, is that there is so much elder care work being done by the families in the local communities. And there has to be a lot more support given to the families, to the caregivers, than is now.
It's not only the aging population that's having problems in PEI, it's rural PEI period that's having a lot of problems. We got to deal with that. We have some programs there, especially for seniors living in their own homes, or where you know, they only get one income. We look at their property tax. We'll give them a reduction in their property tax.
I think democracy speaks for itself. I think when the public has the opportunity to go to the polls and vote, they should decide whether or not an MLA gets to keep their job. And I personally believe that the government should be accountable, and an MLA should keep the promise, but it's up to the public to decide when it's time for them to go.
The easy answer to that would be no, but I think you have to look at what promise you made and what commitment you made. You can make promises. Any party leader, any MLA can make promises. Most MLAs don't make promises. The promises come from the party platform. If a promise cannot be implemented, it could be due to the economy. It could be beyond circumstances beyond any MLA's or government's control. So no, fire it right off the bat, absolutely not, because the MLAs of the day will be either re-elected or defeated in 4 years down the road, and it will be the people in the districts across PEI who will decide if their MLA is fired or rehired.
A major election promise, if they're deliberately making election promises that know fully well they can't keep, there should be recall legislation put in place. I don't know if you call that fired, but they put recall legislation in place. If you didn't keep your promise, then there's recall legislation whereby you're going to have to go before whoever adjudicates that. You know, it's we'll be only too glad to put recall legislation in place.
Wow, now there's an interesting one. You know, I mean, I look at what happened in British Columbia with the HST, and I think that was absolutely brilliant. They had the plebiscite, and hopefully they've got rid of it. I think rather than firing MLAs who don't keep their promises, I think what might be more important is to bring in that legislation which allows a plebiscite to be held on a bad decision of government.
I don't think anyone has the right to promise anything. Everything is changing constantly. You simply do the best you can with the job and the portfolio you have.